Okay, so this is the part of the program where Larry signs off and moves on to the next topic. And it's time to do that, and I'm going to do an add-in topic, it looks like. Something that I swore I was never going to do. And I'll try to make it interesting because that's the point. But you guys are funny. As anybody who owns a YouTube channel is aware, we've got piles of demographic coming in. We know where people are watching from, who's watching, what people watch, what time of the day they watch, how much they watch, their country of origination, the town they live in. Pretty much when you click on a YouTube channel, your ISP pops up. So while you're learning on YouTube, YouTube's learning about you. That's one of the deadly little secrets of the inner tube or the telephone. You carry around a spy in your pocket, you're going to get spied on. You shop on the internet, your data's going to be recorded. They're going to find out what you like, and all of a sudden there's going to be an inundation of things that you like. And they're constantly, and this is not an AI thing. The AI thing is a bunch of weenie little pukes sitting around with abacuses pretending like they're smart. They aren't. And AI is no closer to reality now than it was back in about 1000 AD. But that aside, we've got something called algorithms that learn in the same way that a worm learns. If a worm turns to the left and you give it a snip, it might do that 10 times, then the next 10 times it might turn the other way 3 times to 7 or something. The worm can learn. Everything can learn. It's called a learning algorithm. That's all we're dealing with. I'm a learning algorithm, I guess. I look at my demographics and I realize these viewers hate politics. Which, unbeknownst to you, is just another way of saying these viewers hate responsibility, but I won't go there. These viewers also hate preachers, and so do I, so I'll try not to preach. But the one thing I've known all my life about the human condition is that people hate to think. They want to be told, and unfortunately, in what we're doing, if I do work with a Sig Fury case, and I do it with a 6x47 Lapua, you can still learn things that apply to your 308 or your 338 or your whatever. This stuff crosses over people. It's not like, it wasn't that long ago I said, I'm playing with this 277 Sig Fury case, even though I'll never build a 277 Sig Fury. I can't imagine the situation. Well, that's what I'm leading into. I'm going to show you my next. I don't know if it's going to be next because this is fill-in stuff while I'm waiting for a reamer to show up. I've got 3 builds on the fire that are in this lineup on this channel already started. And when the parts start trickling in, I'm going to move over to that. But in the meantime, the 2 things that I've got going, well, let's just say 2 of the things I've got going are that I'm continuing the shooting in my 50 BMG stuff so that I can show you some groups, so that I can show you some results. I showed you every group that's here. I don't know what to call it. 6x47 Lapua built on the Sig 277 case. I made some cases. I shot them down. You can see every group that was ever fired. They all look like somebody threw rocks at a piece of paper. So I decided to just cut to the chase and stop that. But then, what am I going to do with $1,000 worth of loaded 277 Fig series? Find me a Fig. Luckily, I don't do Apple, so Siri's not going to be wandering around looking for figs because I yelled at the monitor. The day I start yelling at Apple machine, I'll know I've lost it. Anyway. This is the Sig 277 Fury. This is what all the fear has been about on my channel for the last couple of weeks. And bottom line is I was convinced enough because they went up to pressure so fast that I went out and bought, you know, there's 10.5 boxes of them there which have no use for me. But then I remembered two things. Number one, those of you who are really interested in accuracy are going to recognize that you can learn from a 6mm, things that apply to a 30, things that apply to a 50 BMG, or a 50 fart, or a 50, learning is universal. Learn those people that want to just be told what to do to make their 6.5 Piedmont shoot, because it ain't shooting as good. Those people are never going to know how to shoot. So the people that matter can learn from all sorts of things. I look at this sometimes, it's too bad there's not very much crossover between, say, technical mountain climbers and shooters. I've seen guys, I went to school with guys that would spend weeks studying the face of El Capitan, and weeks assessing, and weeks planning, and they would consider routes, and they would pick routes, and then finally it was elbows up and go, and once you're committed to a route, you either might take a week coming back down. Anyway, the point is there are things that you people join into, but shooters generally just want to go out and pay for accuracy and then slowly learn how to shoot, maybe. Shooters are a funny bunch. So I'm sitting here looking at this 277 case going, dude, my plan just collapsed. Let me make it more clear. My plan didn't collapse. I implemented my plan. I followed it through to its fruition. My plan failed. My idea sucked. My idea fell on its face. So I'm wondering how to make lemonade out of these cases I've got. I'm not going to just throw that. That's the beauty of being a dealer. That's the beauty of being doing it the way I do it. When I get done, even if I had to sell it for a loss, I can sell this. I can make a wicked cool mountain gun. I can do whatever. But I decided, okay, here I have, a while back, a guy got together with me and said, I want us to make the biggest, baddest hot rod 270 because I think that's going to be the next big thing. Berger's making big noise about their jackets. They're coming out with new bullets. The BC is spectacular. And I want you to build the biggest, the baddest, the hot roddedest, the fastest 270 on the planet. I said, okay. And I started calling around who will do a tight twist 270. Well, that turned out to be Packnor. And I did. Even this, just because it's the way I do things, I threw a shilling into the mix. 10 twist, number 5 contour stainless for hopefully a pack around 270 of some sort, probably the big monster Hellbringer. This is what started my whole Hellbringer process. So I ordered this barrel out as the biggest, baddest tight twist 270 that I could find. And I knew I was going to have to wait a year for it, so I threw some other barrels on and I decided, two things that you've learned about on this channel. This right here is a Brownell's version of a shilling contour, and it has an 1.250 shank. That leaves enough of an abutting shoulder to tighten it to 150 pounds without unduly deforming that abutment shank. These two are both 1.350. I said something about a $400 blank. These are probably $600 blanks. But Packnor is back up and running. Packnor makes a good barrel. And Packnor doesn't argue with me when I order some stupid looking contour that looks more like a toy than it does like a gun barrel. But this is for a super lightweight If you remember the old Winchester Model 70, I can play with this and I can modify it, but I'm basically going to start off by leaving enough big shank to get my wrenching equipment on, and just enough tenon and enough to letter it. We'll see how bad it looks. I might have to play with this, but I don't care. This was set up for a super lightweight Hellbringer, and from the beginning I realized that the Hellbringer case makes way too much heat for this little wispy, moth wing of a barrel. So it wasn't perfect, but once I was ordering from Packnor, I went ahead and put about 5 barrels in the pipeline, and I ended up getting a 270 to do something else with. Well, then in the meantime, this 277 project started, and about the time this thing was puking its guts out all over the table and not working as a 6, not working as a high intensity 100,000 psi 6 in my known platforms, I was wondering, this barrel is massive enough and long enough to make this one is going to be a Hellbringer no matter what. It's going to be the big case, it's going to burn it, it's going to push the big bullets. But I took even this barrel. This is still a 32-inch blank here. This is going to finish out at 31 inches or so. This is still a big 30-inch long dog. That's what I'm going to start with, and then I'll back down. This one I'll play a little bit with backing down, checking velocities, and I'll end up with a lightweight packable, a 6-pound 270 Sig Fury. Now I have a use for this 10 twist that I bought for $237 back when you could still buy stuff without COVID pricing. Nowadays everything is so pussed up that the supply lines are choked up, the prices are all stupid, and I'm just glad that I've got 20-30 barrels kicking around here I can do stuff with, because I can do this. A lot of it is stuff I've been collecting for years as I started this channel. So here I have 3 270 barrels. This one is going to be a Hellbringer, so we don't really have to talk about this. This is going to be a long-range sniping platform to take advantage of those big new bullets, push them as fast as they'll go. This is going to be what I call a cheap barrel. Well, by the way, speaking of cheap barrels, at the risk of sounding sacrilegious, Dusty Stevens went on record recently about, yeah, these Schilling barrels are cool and everything, but they got a sticker on there that even Jesus couldn't take off. And I like the way he said that, because it says the way these are. These things are a joke. Brownell's changed that. Brownell's has now got a white sticker. This one's only, I don't know, 6 months old or something. Post-COVID. I always have a hot button up that when Schilling barrels come through on their app. Anyway, this popped up, 10 twist number 5. I thought I can use that. Boom, got it here. And I've got a sticker that's removable. So that's kind of nice. But this barrel is, to all intents and purposes, going to be for a middle range. But again, this might be the perfect cartridge to do it in. I'm going to bring this up to the camera one more time so you can see, for those of you that haven't watched the other videos, just exactly what this is that we're playing with. This is the Sig Sauer, latest entrant to the military mess, and it is their 277 Fury case. Now I just ran it through the paces as a 6mm because I have a 6mm that is, I call a known paradigm. I'm trying to show you just how far that brass goes down. I didn't section this thing quite as deep as I maybe should have, but it shows you what I'm up against. Basically what I'm up against is, as this area, I don't know where to put my fingers, on the outside of the slide or in here. But anyway, this case head area here, the steel, expands, and because all of my stuff is built fat butted, which means I build the bases nice and thick so that the case swells up, and this thick disc here at the base that tends to get smashed down and widen out and interfere in the chamber Can't. I make the back big enough that this fat brass, or in this case steel, but on a conventional case it's brass, can never hang out, and you don't ever have to use the snod base dies, ring dies, all the sort of crap that's been made over the years to address it as a fix, not to address it right up front. To address it right up front, you make this area of the chamber wide enough that this can't hang up. The primers are falling on the ground before it can hang up. Now, as you can see, if you think back a little bit, this interface where the brass case ties in with the steel case head, the reason I shut down my other project is because when I reached the pressures that I thought would be useful, these case heads started to spin. They didn't leak, but they broke loose from that joint right there. So I'm going to take this new project. I am going to do something that I literally haven't done since 20 years ago. I went through a time when I ran SAMI minimum chambers and SAMI minimum dies and minimum, trying to get rid of all the play and a whole bunch of BS that was speculated to me by the pros. To this day, many of them are building their PPC chambers too small. And guys on the sly are going out and literally putting them in their drill presses and burning the back ends of their chambers out and getting rid of the problem because they don't want to argue with their gunsmith. It's actually kind of funny, but fat-butted chambers are becoming more and more a thing. But I can test that in this case it's a mistake, because where you've got those two pieces lapped over, when you fat butt it, they tend to go out of alignment, they tend to delaminate or separate, and with sizing you end up breaking loose this. So what I'm going to do is, for the first time in probably 30 years, I'm going to build a minimum spec. I just sat down with the numbers today. I called the reamer makers, and I've got 3 270s that are, well, this is one I didn't ever use, to be fair. This is somebody else's iteration of a 270 Winchester short mag. I was on the hunt. I've been trying to find out what I want. These are old papers, but based on case dimensions from my 300 WSM number 2, blah blah blah, we go through all these iterations to where I've got something that I call .270 Master number 2, which is a I use somebody else's reamer, then I use my 270 Matson, or actually this is all based on my WSM line. These are all fat butts also. This is the second generation fat butt, what I chose to do this. Now I'm going to try again to work with a minimum spec reamer and see if I can figure out how to keep these two pieces from delaminating. And in the meantime, if I don't, I haven't lost anything. I'll have a top spec as good as you can get, pair or a couple of 277 Sig Furies that I can just sell as 277 Sig Furies, not make any wild and preposterous claims about it. But in the meantime, I'll be able to ring these bad boys out. I'll be able to test a minimum spec chamber again. I'll be able to, if nothing else, build a couple of guns, have a store of ammo, and sell them all together with the dies and the ammo, and the person can just go out and load these factories in. I think I'm going to improve it. I think I'm going to go to a 35-degree shoulder. Might take a wee bit of the body taper out, but there's not much to take out. I don't know that I can improve the case all that much, except to make it size better. But one of the things I've noticed is that when I size down and start bumping that shoulder back, it exerts that linear pressure and it tries to break that gap open. So I still have that fight when I'm trying to just touch the shoulder and collapse the case walls, the side walls enough that it'll go back in the chamber. And especially when I load up hunting rounds, I collapse them a half a thou further than I normally would, because brass has spring back and it has long-term spring back or growth back. And I can size these and shoot them all day, no feel at all. But then at the very end of the day when I load some up to take with me, I have to give that shoulder just a fuss budget more. Otherwise I can come back a week later and they barely go back in the gun. They're tight. So this might be a neck size only. I don't know. I'm in speculation mode here because this case as a 6mm is useless. It does not shoot. And I didn't take the time to figure out is that because the case head is broken loose from the case walls so that it's moving? Is it because we got pressure leakage out of here? Because the ES on these never did go down to where I want it. On cases that have been fired up to, I have to say it, 120,000 PSI. So they had been stressed to say the least. But I'm going to do one more thing here and just see if we can get you a look inside this case. You can see where my dilemma is. There's the flash hole, which is an enormous bugger, 80 thousandths, and the brass kind of goes down into another notch there. It's almost you can see it really doesn't. It comes around to this lug. But that lug, that brass case head takes, that steel case head takes pressure like nothing you've ever seen before. And it honestly runs up to 120,000 PSI. But at that point, the brass portion tends to start getting loose. So that's going to be my fight on this. I'm going to go ahead and build two of something I said I would never do. Two 277s. I've got this primo grade Pracknor $600-700 custom barrel blank with a great big abutting shoulder. Yet Pracknor full on blown match, yet lightweight. Part of this is to prove this whole carbon fiber barrel conundrum. I've spent thousands of dollars proving that carbon fiber barrels won't shoot just because people have argued with me. Bottom line is that I can take a carbon fiber barrel of the exact same weight as a steel barrel, and the steel barrel will always outshoot the carbon fiber barrel. But it won't look as cool. Carbon fiber looks wicked. I mean, I know that. But anyway, I just wanted to share with you some of the directions I'm going to, as they say, make lemonade out of the lemons that I've been given by inheriting, buying, a great whacking stash of 277 Sig Fury cases, which is a caliber I have, until recently, very little interest in. We shall see. It'll be a road either way.